Red Edition, welcome and happy day. Let me start today with the stupid thief file. Here's a guy in Queensland, Australia. I mean, this is really dumb. He was in a parking lot. He just came out of a store, grocery store. He bought some groceries. That's what you're supposed to do at a grocery store, right? In any event, he put the bags down. He looked around. He said, hey, I don't have a car. So he went back into the store and he bought a knife. And then he came out, stood beside his bags. A woman drove by. He went up and grabbed the door, flung it open, put the knife up to her throat, stole the car, drove up about 40 feet. She got out of the car, pushed her out of the car, backed up, loaded his bags. And as he's loading his groceries, of course, he's a shopper, right? What happens? She has a cell phone. She phones the police. They come and they get him. He still hasn't even finished loading his groceries, and he's off in jail, and he ain't driving her car pretty short distance. They walk among us. Carry permit applications are still waiting approvals now in every state virtually, but in particular in Indiana, 45,000 handgun carry permits are just sitting there. I know when I got my first one probably 10 years ago now out of Utah, it took me 8 months to get the application completed and got to get it through all the works, right? It's a process. But 23,000 of these applications or new applications were received last month alone. And this is happening everywhere. A couple of reasons why. Sandy Hook and other tragedies in the U.S. have made people aware that they need to protect themselves and be in a position to protect the lives of their loved ones, right? And in addition to that, of course, they're of the view that maybe the left-wing wackos will continue their quest to get rid of guns and permits and everything else, because they always, and people know this, they always go out and try to take the guns away after a tragedy from the people who didn't do it. That almost deserves a moment of silence. And then Illinois. Illinois recently and finally became the very last state in the entire union to allow public possession to conceal guns, and lawmakers now have been rushing around, scamping around, trying to figure out how to make it complicated, right? The Supreme Court says you have to do this, and they said, okay, so can we do it and have a holster that you can't unlock? Or because that's what left-wing goofs do all of the time. They try to make it so complicated that you give up, and they're trying now to make the test, take 4 years to write it. And the lawmakers, from the federal perspective, continue to come in and say, guys, show me your knuckles. I want to wrap them. You got to pass this and let it happen. So finally, it's there. 300 applications are already written, and they haven't even opened it up yet. These guys are creating their own forms off the internet and from other states and saying, here, me. Pretty interesting. The Senate voted 41-17 in favor to override the governor's veto. Veto. I can't talk. I'm getting all worked up. I mean, I'm excited that finally the good guys have an opportunity to defend their lives. Good people don't do bad things, particularly with firearms. Bad people do bad things. All you Canadian people, get on your government. I mean, Canada is one of the only countries left in the free world where it's against the law to defend the life of yourself or a loved one or anybody else, for that matter. If you're a good person, you can't even protect yourself from a bear. You can't carry a gun when you go hunting. Pardon me, not when you go hunting. Hiking, that's what I meant to say. Again, it's pretty weird. In Oklahoma recently, a man came out of his home, going towards his car to go to work, and there was a burglar. He looked to the side, and there was a burglar breaking into his house through the kitchen. He went over and he grabbed him, threw him on the ground, beat him up, tied him up, said to his wife, would you look after this deer? I'm going to the office. I don't want to be late. And he did. And she said, that's my hero. Robert Cole was charged with first-degree burglary, as he should be. Ice cream sales. They've often been monitored with regard to homicides, gun shootings in particular. I mean, this is kind of dumb, but here's what they say. Should ice cream be blamed for murders? The correlation between homicides and ice cream sales. When ice cream sales increase, homicides increase too. Another moment of silence. You got to absorb that one if you got it. I mean, I'm not that bright. I got a grade 8 and I'm from Hicksville, But even I can figure that out. When it gets really hot, tempers probably go up, and you eat ice cream and you go out and you shoot somebody. Sounds like a pretty interesting formula. San Diego recently, a judge there said yoga is okay. All you parents that have sued the school saying that it's an improper indoctrination thing to go with Muslimhood, now all kinds of big words here that I can't even begin to understand, let alone pronounce. But the judge finally said, you're wrong. It ain't a subliminal kind of a brainwash thing. It's yoga. So get over yourself. And so everybody's done that. There's a Mountie in Canada. He was the commander of Merritt. Merritt is, in between Vancouver and the Okanagan Valley on the Coquihalla Highway. I know that. And the RCMP detachment there has several members in it, and this guy has been in charge of it for a number of years. And guess what? He goes out and nabs drug dealers and drug people, takes the drugs to the detachment, and then after hours goes and takes them out of the storage bin, takes them home and uses them. And he's a cocaine addict and has been for a number of years. The bad thing here is most everybody there knew, and nobody reported it. Nobody arrested him. And here's a cop, the main cop in the town, doing bad things. I mean, the Mounties have a bad reputation because they do a lot of bad things throughout the country. They disobey laws all of the time. They create the laws. They actually think they're above the law. Why? Because it's true. Get rid of them? Of course. They should be like the FBI, a federal law enforcement agency that goes after federal things. I mean, every other place should have people that you vote for. Just saying. Let me end today with this. Dear paranoid people who check behind their shower curtains for murderers, what would you do if you ever found one? What's the plan? Do you have a plan? I've always wondered about that. Hey, y'all come back tomorrow. We're going to have more for you from the right. See ya.